Hey warriors, you opened your eyes this morning. That alone is a miracle. But somewhere between waking up and meeting your own reflection, something slipped away. You forgot your worth. You forgot your value. You forgot that the greatest love story of your life isn't waiting out there in the world. It's right here, within you. Self-love. Two small words with the power to rebuild your entire life. Yet, for most of your life, people taught you a lie that loving yourself is selfish, that choosing yourself is wrong, that caring for your own heart somehow makes you less kind. So you gave until you were empty. You poured into others until you disappeared. You loved everyone except the one person who needed it most, you. Today, that changes. Today, on Save Yourself, you remember who you are. You reclaim the most sacred relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. Because everything flows from this source. Your peace, your joy, your purpose, your boundaries, your relationships. Every single one begins with how you treat yourself when the world isn't watching. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That power begins with the way you speak to yourself. It starts with recognizing that you are worthy, not because of achievements or praise, but simply because you exist. Self-love is waking up and choosing kindness toward yourself before you choose anything else. It's saying no without guilt. It's resting without shame. It's feeding your soul the way you would care for someone precious because you are that someone. This isn't about perfection. This is about acceptance. About looking into your own eyes and saying, "I see you. I hear you. I'm not leaving," especially when things get hard. Self-love is the gentle hand that catches you when you fall. The voice that whispers, "Try again," instead of "give up." Let this message settle into your bones, slowly, deeply. Loving yourself is not a destination, it's a daily practice. Every morning, you get to choose again. And the more you choose it, the more you'll realize you were never too much, you were never not enough. You were exactly who you needed to be. But before we go deeper, I need something from you. If this message is already pulling at your heart, hit that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who needs it today. And if you're ready to transform your mornings and your life, subscribe to Save Yourself. Don't skip. Don't rush. Your soul asked for this. And if your heart just whispered yes, type it out now. I am worthy of my own love. Number 1. The mirror of truth. Every morning, you pass the mirror. Sometimes you glance. Sometimes you stare. Sometimes you look away. But how often do you actually see yourself? Not the flaws, not the insecurities you've been trained to obsess over, but the soul behind your eyes, the heart that's carried you through every storm, the spirit that has survived everything life threw at you. Self-love begins with honest seeing. It begins when you stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. When you stop using society's warped definitions of beauty, success, and worth to measure yourself. The world gave you countless distorted mirrors, mirrors that told you you're not enough unless you look a certain way, achieve certain things, or receive certain praise. But here's the truth that will finally set you free. You are not incomplete, you are not broken, you are whole right now. Epictetus said, "No one can hurt you without your consent." And that includes the way you hurt yourself with cruel inner dialogue. Today, you withdraw that consent. Stand in front of the mirror differently. See the warrior looking back. See the one who has survived 100% of their hardest days. See the one who kept going when quitting would have been easier. See the one who deserves compassion and respect, not criticism. Self-love doesn't ignore growth. It sees the whole picture. Your flaws, yes, but also your strengths, your gifts, your softness, your resilience. When you practice self-love, you stop magnifying your weaknesses and minimizing your strengths. You treat yourself with the same kindness you give everyone else, and you finally allow yourself to believe that your needs matter too. This is not arrogance, this is humility. The humility of being human, evolving, learning, falling, rising. The mirror of truth also asks you to face what you've been avoiding, the exhaustion, the relationship that drains you, the dream you abandoned, the life you've outgrown. Self-love gives you the strength to say, this needs to change, and I'm worth the effort. Start today. Say 3 genuine truths to your reflection, not compliments, truths. I showed up today. I'm learning to set boundaries. I'm kinder to myself than I used to be. Let your voice be the first voice of encouragement you hear. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, confine yourself to the present. Self-love is loving who you are right now, not the past version, not the future version. This version, this moment, this you. Comment below. I see my true worth. Number 2, the garden you tend. Each small boundary you set builds your confidence to set bigger ones. Remember, every time you choose your peace over people-pleasing, you strengthen your soul. Every time you honor your limits, you teach the world how to treat you. Every time you say no when your heart needs protection, you say yes to yourself. On Save Yourself, we talk about becoming the guardian of your own life. This is where that journey becomes real, because boundaries are not just rules. They are acts of self-respect. They are declarations that your energy is sacred, your time is valuable, and your heart is not a playground for other people's chaos. And here's the deeper truth. People who truly love you will honor your boundaries. People who deserve a place in your life will respect your no. People aligned with your growth will celebrate your self-respect, not criticize it. The ones who get angry when you set boundaries are the ones who benefited from you having none. Let them fall away. Your life will become lighter without them. So today, I want you to create one simple boundary for yourself. Just one. Maybe you'll decide to protect the first hour of your morning. Maybe you'll decide not to answer messages after a certain time. Maybe you'll unfollow someone who drains your energy. Maybe you'll finally admit that a relationship is crossing lines you can't ignore. Whatever it is, honor it, stand by it, protect it, because the moment you begin honoring your boundaries, your life begins to transform. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop being pulled in 100 directions and start stepping forward with clarity. You stop abandoning yourself for others and start choosing yourself without guilt, without apology, without hesitation. Affirm it now. My boundaries protect my peace. Some of the greatest Stoic minds warned us about this trap. Seneca said that a man who cannot be alone is a slave to the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote that retreating into yourself is the most powerful form of rest. And Epictetus reminded us that your thoughts shape your life. So if your environment is chaotic, your mind will be too. When you stay home, you remove the noise. You stop absorbing the energy of people who complain, gossip, argue, demand, or distract. You stop giving your attention to things that weaken you. Instead, your mind starts to clear. Your purpose starts to sharpen. You begin to hear your own voice again, not the voices of society telling you what to be. Most men are terrified of being alone because it forces them to confront themselves. But a Stoic sees solitude differently. He sees it as a forge, a place where he can burn away weakness, rewrite his identity, and rise stronger. Staying home turns you into the kind of man who doesn't chase validation because he already validates himself, doesn't need a crowd because he builds his own world, and doesn't fear silence because silence becomes his power. When you remove the world's influence, you finally see what's been holding you back, and once you see it, you can destroy it. Most men don't realize this, but staying home also exposes your real addictions, not the obvious ones like food or entertainment, but the invisible ones. The addiction to being liked, the addiction to constant stimulation, the addiction to external approval, the addiction to avoiding your own thoughts. When you step back from the world, these cravings rise to the surface. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your mind tries to pull you back into old habits, scrolling, talking, going out, seeking noise. But if you sit with the discomfort, something powerful happens. The cravings begin to die. That's when discipline is born, because real discipline isn't built in public. It's built in silence, when nobody is watching, when you choose growth over comfort, when you choose to sit with your own thoughts instead of running from them. And here's the part most men never understand. Isolation doesn't make you weaker socially, it makes you stronger. A man who spends time alone becomes calmer around others. He speaks less, but says more. His presence becomes heavier, more grounded, more controlled. People can feel it even before he opens his mouth. Why? Because solitude gives you mastery over your emotions, your impulses, and your reactions. You stop being pulled by the world, and the world starts being pulled by you. Staying home is not hiding. It's training. It's preparation. It's sharpening your inner blade so that when you step back into life, you're not just another distracted man. You're focused, intentional, and unshakable. And here's the truth nobody tells you. When you stay home and build yourself, you start separating from the world, not physically, but mentally. You stop thinking like everyone else. You stop reacting like everyone else. You stop needing what everyone else needs. You become self-sufficient. Most people can't sit alone for even 10 minutes without reaching for their phone. But a man who trains his mind in solitude becomes dangerous not because he's violent, but because he's independent. Society loses its control over him. Opinions lose their grip. Noise no longer affects him. He becomes a man guided by his own values, not the world's expectations. This is why Stoics valued retreat, not to escape life, but to understand it. Marcus Aurelius led an empire, yet he still returned to solitude to examine his own thoughts. Why? Because even emperors know that the mind becomes corrupted when it's constantly exposed to chaos. And the modern world is the loudest version of chaos we've ever seen. When you stay home, even for a short period, you start to notice subtle things. How much your mind jumps from thought to thought. How easily your emotions get triggered. How quickly your energy drains around the wrong people. How much stronger you feel when you control your space. You start reclaiming parts of yourself you thought were lost. Slowly, the noise fades. Slowly, clarity returns. Slowly, purpose rises to the surface. That's when the transformation begins, when you stop living on autopilot and start living intentionally. Because a man who can master himself at home can master anything out in the world. But here's the part that will surprise you. The more time you spend in solitude, the less lonely you become. Why? Because loneliness doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being disconnected from yourself. Most men walk through life surrounded by people, yet feel empty inside. They chase friendships, relationships, parties, and conversations, not because they enjoy them, but because silence scares them. The moment they're alone, their mind starts speaking, and they don't like what it says. But when a man chooses solitude, when he willingly steps away from the noise, he begins building a relationship with the one person he can never escape, himself. And over time, that relationship becomes solid. You stop needing validation because you validate yourself. You stop needing company because you enjoy your own presence. You stop needing entertainment because your mind becomes sharp and alive. This is where inner peace begins. Staying home teaches you that you don't need to chase anything. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to perform for the world. You simply need to understand yourself, your values, your desires, your flaws, your strengths. Most men avoid this kind of introspection because it reveals truths they're not ready to face. But a Stoic embraces it. A Stoic uses solitude as a mirror. A Stoic understands that wisdom grows in the places where distractions die. And once you find peace within yourself, something extraordinary happens. The outside world stops controlling you. You don't react to every insult. You don't fall for every temptation. You don't chase every emotion. You don't fear being misunderstood. You become calm, centered, steady, the kind of man whose silence speaks louder than other people's shouting. This is why staying home is not weakness. It is strategy. It is discipline. It is self-mastery in its purest form. And eventually, something else begins to shift, something subtle but powerful. You stop being available to the wrong things. When you stay home and strengthen your inner world, you naturally outgrow certain people, conversations, habits, and environments. Things that once excited you now feel empty. People who once influenced you now feel unaligned. Patterns that once controlled you now lose their power. Solitude makes you selective. Selective with your time. Selective with your energy. Selective with your attention. Most men give themselves away too easily to friends who waste their hours, to women who don't respect them, to environments that drain them. But a disciplined man, a stoic man, becomes intentional. He knows that energy is a currency, and he refuses to spend it on anything that weakens him. This is why staying home is more than just staying inside. It is creating a boundary between your mind and the chaos of the world. And once that boundary is in place, you start noticing a new kind of strength inside you, a quiet, unshakable confidence. Not the loud kind that tries to impress others, but the steady kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently, choose differently. People notice the change, even if they can't explain it. They feel your presence. They sense your control. They see a man who no longer needs approval, attention, or noise to feel whole. That's the power of isolation. It removes the world from your mind, so your mind can finally build the man you were meant to be. And here's the final truth, the one most men never realize. When you master solitude, you become immune to manipulation. No woman can control you with attention. No friend can control you with pressure. No society can control you with trends. No emotion can control you with chaos. Because the man who can sit alone can stand against anything. But solitude doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you see clearly. When you step back from the noise, you begin to recognize the patterns in your life with brutal honesty. You start noticing which habits keep you stuck, which people drain your spirit, which desires lead you into weakness, which fears you've been avoiding for years. Clarity is a reward only given to the man who dares to be alone. Most men never discover who they really are because their identity is built on noise, the opinions of others, the expectations of society, the pressure to fit in. Their mind is shaped by what the world tells them to be, not by what they truly are. But when you stay home and strip all of that away, you meet your real self, the one hiding beneath insecurity, fear, and distraction. And that moment is powerful, because once a man sees his true self, he can begin to rebuild himself. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that self-mastery begins with self-awareness, and self-awareness can only come from silence, reflection, and space to think. When you stay home intentionally, you create that space. You start asking deeper questions. What do I truly want from life? What kind of man am I becoming? What habits are holding me back? What values do I actually stand for? These are questions you can't answer in crowds, parties, or endless social interactions. You need stillness, you need time, you need space. And once the answers begin to emerge, your entire mindset shifts. You stop chasing pleasure. You start chasing purpose. You stop reacting. You start planning. You stop following. You start leading. A man who spends time in solitude becomes a strategist. His mind becomes structured, calm, observant. He moves with intention instead of impulse. He chooses his battles instead of being dragged into them. And when he finally steps outside again, he's no longer the man the world shaped. He's the man he sculpted. But something even more profound happens the longer you embrace solitude. You stop rushing. You stop feeling that desperate urge to prove yourself, to be everywhere, to say yes to everyone, to constantly stay busy just so you won't look unproductive. You begin to realize that busyness is not productivity and noise is not progress. The world moves fast because people are running from something. A Stoic moves slowly because he's running toward something. Solitude slows your mind down. It teaches you patience. It teaches you timing. It teaches you that life is not a race, it's a strategy. You start to notice the difference between movement and momentum, between activity and achievement, between urgency and importance. And the more time you spend alone, the more you understand this truth. A man becomes powerful when he controls his pace. Weak men rush. Strong men move with intention. Staying home is what allows you to regain that control. No distractions, no external pressure, no social expectations, just you, your goals, your routines, your thoughts, and your discipline. This is where real growth happens, not in crowded spaces, not in noisy environments, not in chaotic schedules, but in the quiet hours when no one is watching and no one is applauding, in the moments when you choose self-respect over instant gratification, when you choose long-term strength over short-term comfort, and as your pace becomes clearer, something else happens. You stop comparing yourself to other men, because when you're alone, you're not competing with anyone except yesterday's version of you, and that's the only competition a Stoic respects. Comparison dies in solitude. Envy dies in solitude. Insecurity dies in solitude. Ego dies in solitude. And what replaces them? Focus, clarity, direction, purpose. That's when you become truly dangerous, not to others, but to your own limitations. Because the man who has mastered silence, reflection, and intention becomes unstoppable the moment he decides to take action. And eventually, solitude gives you the greatest gift a man can earn: emotional control, not suppression, not pretending, control. Because when you're alone, there is no one to blame, no one to distract you, no one to trigger you. It's just you, facing every emotion you've avoided for years. Anger, fear, regret, insecurity, doubt. Most men run from these feelings by staying busy, staying social, staying distracted. But a Stoic confronts them. He studies them, he questions them, he breaks them down until they lose their power. This is where emotional mastery begins, not in heated arguments, not in chaotic environments, but in silence. You begin to understand your reactions. You see the roots of your anger. You recognize your triggers. You learn where your insecurities come from. And slowly, you stop being controlled by your emotions. You start controlling them. This is why a man who spends time alone becomes unshakable. People can insult him, he stays calm. People can provoke him, he stays grounded. People can misunderstand him, he stays focused. Because he has already fought the internal battles that others are still avoiding. Solitude makes you emotionally bulletproof. Not because you feel nothing, but because you understand everything. A man who hasn't mastered solitude will always be a slave to his emotions, reacting, exploding, chasing, panicking. But a man who has mastered solitude becomes a fortress. His peace is not fragile. His confidence is not dependent on others. His self-worth is not negotiable. And when others see this, they feel it. They sense that you cannot be manipulated. You cannot be rushed. You cannot be shaken. You cannot be controlled. This is why solitude is feared by the weak and embraced by the strong. Because it reveals who you really are and who you are capable of becoming. And once you've seen that version of yourself, the calm, disciplined, sharp, emotionally powerful version, you never want to go back. But solitude does something even deeper, something almost spiritual. It reconnects you with your mission. In the noise of the world, your purpose gets buried under obligations, distractions, and expectations. Everyone wants something from you, your attention, your energy, your time. And slowly, without even noticing, you begin living for other people instead of yourself. But when you stay home, when you withdraw from the noise, the truth rises to the surface. You were meant for something more. Your instincts become louder. Your intuition becomes sharper. Your dreams stop feeling impossible. They start feeling unavoidable, because solitude strips life down to its essentials. It forces you to look at the man you are and the man you're supposed to become. And when those two don't match, something inside you wakes up. That's why great men, warriors, philosophers, emperors, creators all valued isolation, not because they hated people, but because they knew purpose grows in silence. In solitude, you start asking questions you've never asked before. What am I building? What future am I moving toward? What weaknesses must I destroy? What skills must I sharpen? What sacrifices must I make? These questions are heavy, but they are necessary. A man without purpose is easily controlled. A man with purpose becomes unstoppable. And that's the real danger of solitude. Once a man discovers his mission, nothing can distract him from it. Not people, not opinions, not fear, not temptation. Your mind becomes a weapon. Your time becomes sacred. Your actions become deliberate. Your life becomes aligned. You stop wasting hours on people who don't matter. You stop chasing desires that weaken you. You stop falling into patterns that drain you. Everything sharpens. Everything focuses. Everything aligns. Because once you know your mission, you finally understand what deserves your energy and what doesn't deserve even a second of your life. And that is the moment a man becomes dangerous. Not when he's angry, not when he's loud, not when he's strong, but when he becomes purposeful. That level of clarity is born only in solitude. And once you taste it, you'll never allow the world to pull you back into noise. And as your mission becomes clearer, another transformation begins, one of the most powerful of all. You begin to enjoy your own company. Most men can't stand being alone because they never built a version of themselves worth being alone with. Their thoughts drain them, their habits weaken them, their lack of discipline embarrasses them. So they run to noise, run to people, run to distractions. But the man who embraces solitude becomes the opposite. He begins to build himself into someone he respects, someone he trusts, someone he's proud to be. Your routines become your anchor. Your discipline becomes your structure. Your goals become your companions. Your environment becomes your fortress. You start to like the man you're becoming, quietly, steadily, consistently. And when a man likes himself, he becomes unstoppable. Why? Because he no longer needs the world to fill the emptiness inside him. He no longer needs validation to feel worthy. He no longer needs attention to feel alive. He becomes internally fueled, not externally fed. That's the kind of man who walks into a room calm, silent, focused, and instantly stands out. Not because he's trying to impress anyone, but because he has no reason to. A man who enjoys solitude becomes mysterious without trying. His energy becomes rare. His presence becomes heavy. His silence becomes powerful. People start wondering, why is he so calm? Why does he look so controlled? Why doesn't he chase what everyone else chases? Where does that confidence come from? It comes from solitude, from the hours spent sharpening yourself when nobody was watching, from the choices you made when comfort tempted you, from the battles you fought internally until you emerged stronger. This is the kind of confidence you can't fake. You earn it day after day in the quiet moments. And here's the truth. The man who enjoys being alone becomes the man who is never truly alone, because he carries strength with him everywhere. He carries peace with him everywhere. He carries purpose with him everywhere. His mind becomes home. And once your mind becomes home, no place in the world can ever make you feel lost again. But solitude isn't just about peace, it's about power. When the world is loud, chaotic, and endlessly demanding, most men are swept along like leaves in the wind. They react, they chase, they burn their energy on meaningless things. The man who masters solitude does the opposite. He chooses his battles. He chooses his energy. He chooses his time. And every choice he makes compounds like interest in a bank, silently, invisibly, but with unstoppable force. This is why staying home, withdrawing, and focusing on yourself isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's the art of reclaiming what the world is trying to steal: your mind, your focus, your clarity, your life. And here's the kicker. The more you step back, the more the world starts to chase you. Opportunities, respect, and influence are drawn to the man who doesn't chase them. People are naturally attracted to presence, to calm, to someone who seems untouchable, not because they are arrogant, but because they are complete. The world rewards the man who understands this truth. Silence is not empty. Silence is fertile. Every hour spent alone, mastering yourself, strengthening your habits, and sharpening your mind, grows invisible power that no one can take away. And the results? They show themselves quietly, but unmistakably. Your presence becomes magnetic. Your decisions become sharp. Your mind becomes untouchable. Your life begins to move in a direction others envy. This is the power of staying home. This is the power of solitude. This is the power of becoming a man who doesn't need the world to approve of him, to live fully. Say continue if you want me to write the next part, where we dive into practical daily steps to harness this solitude for unstoppable mental and emotional strength. Own your mornings. The first hours of your day are sacred. Before the world yells, before messages flood in, before distractions begin, this is your time. Read, reflect, plan, or train your body. A strong morning sets the tone for an unshakable day. Create a sacred space. Your home should be a sanctuary, not a prison. Remove clutter, remove noise, remove everything that pulls your attention away. When you enter this space, your mind knows it is time for focus, reflection, and growth. 3. Master your thoughts. Solitude is useless if your mind is chaotic. Journaling, meditation, or simply observing your thoughts teaches control. Every moment alone is a chance to retrain your mind to serve you, not distract you. 4. Limit external validation. Step away from social media, meaningless conversations, and people who drain your energy. Your self-worth should grow from within, not from likes, comments, or approval. 5. Invest in yourself. Read books, learn new skills, train your body, or build something tangible. Use solitude to become a man so skilled, so disciplined, and so present that the world can't ignore him. Reflect daily. Before bed, review your actions, decisions, and emotions. Ask, did I act with clarity? Did I protect my energy? Did I grow today? Reflection turns ordinary days into compounding power. When you practice these consistently, staying home is no longer isolation. It's a weaponized strategy for self-mastery. The world keeps shouting, tempting you, distracting you. But the man who chooses solitude does not react. He acts with clarity, with precision, with unstoppable force. Because true power doesn't scream. It grows quietly, invisibly, and then suddenly, undeniably, dominates every area of your life. Here's the final act, the ultimate truth about solitude and why it transforms men into unstoppable forces. 1. Silence becomes your ally. Most men fear silence. They fill it with noise, conversation, or distractions. But the man who masters silence learns more than any book can teach. In silence, you hear your thoughts clearly, recognize your weaknesses, and discover hidden strengths. Silence is where clarity is born. 2. Solitude breeds self-respect. When you choose to stay home, focus on yourself, and refuse to bend to the demands of others, you're not avoiding life, you're honoring yourself. Self-respect grows in moments when no one is watching, and a man who respects himself cannot be manipulated, used, or underestimated. Energy becomes sacred. Every person, every conversation, every distraction costs energy. Solitude allows you to protect it, grow it, and deploy it strategically. The man who conserves his energy doesn't chase attention. He commands it effortlessly. 4. Your presence becomes magnetic. The world is full of men desperate for validation, noise, and approval. The man who cultivates solitude learns to exist without it, and in doing so, he becomes magnetic. People notice, respect, and even fear his calm, unshakable presence. 5. Mastery is not optional. Time alone is the laboratory of self-mastery. Mind, body, emotions, and purpose all sharpen in the quiet. Solitude is not weakness, it's preparation. And the man who masters himself in isolation becomes unstoppable in the chaos of the world. The secret: the most powerful men in history didn't rely on constant social validation or the approval of crowds. They grew their strength in the quiet, in the shadows, in rooms where no one watched. Your power isn't in the noise of the world. It's in your ability to step back, protect your mind, and cultivate your presence.